Hey folks, it's Dragon Keeper 96600 and welcome to my review of the third episode of Transformers Combiner Wars, this one titled The Duel. Now I know last night during my reaction vid for one of our mini-cons is missing, I made a joke about how these reviews were kind of fun because I get to see all the ways that Combiner Wars will disappoint me this week. Now that I've said that, I have to say, so far, The Duel is the best episode of Combiner Wars, and I know that's not saying much considering the precedent that's been set up, but I've actually, was more into it than I've been with the two other episodes thus far. And the reason for that is, I feel like it combined, what I liked about the first episode, which was the action, and what I guess they wanted to get across with the second episode, which was a lot of exposition, and they were able to combine them in a way that I felt like they should have been doing with the Council. Like with the episode The Council, I mentioned that there are obviously a lot of things they want to get said, but they were being said really dully with characters that are sleepwalking, and in a setting that is literally a board meeting, which is not what Transformers is even remotely about. It's not about board meetings, it's not about politics, it's about giant fucking robots. So tonight, with The Duel, we got giant fucking robots fighting while simultaneously saying important things. That is what I wanted. I wanted storytelling to happen at the same time the tension-getting action is happening. Now, the action itself isn't great. We're still not at Prime caliber or even Robots in Disguise caliber, but it's something, it's better. So let me give a brief plot summary, and the plot summary will probably be half as long as the episode, because again, we're still getting episodes that are 5 minutes long. So Windblade, upset that she missed her shot, sees that it's, Optimus Prime who's getting in the way, and as is her response to everything in the show, she gets angry and tries to kill him. And what I love about the sequence is that throughout this whole fight, the titular duel, she cannot land a single blow on Optimus. I mean, I don't think she hits him once. That's why you're the city speaker, and he's leader of the goddamn Autobots, or was. And, she's just swinging at him, and he's dodging nonchalantly, and at one point, he even gives her advice, he tells her she's off balance, which I don't know if that was actually a line about how your stance is off, or if you're off balance means you need to chill the fuck out, your mind is off balance, both of which would probably be true. Now, what I like about this fight scene in particular is that it actually showcases the two aspects of their character. Prime never directly hits Windblade, but also will not let Windblade hit him. And Windblade is just swinging wildly because she's channeling the dark side right now, and she's desperately trying to hit him for a motive that I'm pretty sure she doesn't even get. And that's another thing I actually like about this episode is the subtlety of characterization, because not only are their characters coming through the movements and the style of fighting, but they're also, you kind of get the sense pretty clearly that Windblade is angry and not thinking rationally, which before you kind of knew, but now that you know, it's because she's grieving, which is something I think the first episode tried to get across, where she, slices Menasor in half like a birthday cake, if you're really hungry, and then says this is for Maxima, and then cries over Maxima's corpse. But at that point, it was kind of emotionally forced. Whereas in this episode, there's one bit where, after Prime takes Windblade's sniper rifle from her, he snaps it half right in front of her, and she gets mad. And what she never says at any point is that was, of course, that was Maxima's sniper rifle, Maxima, Windblade's dead friend, and that is all she has left of her, and Prime just broke it. Of course she's upset. And I love that they never actually say that. And I feel like also Windblade has this pride problem that's pretty clear in this episode. When Optimus asks, why were you trying to kill Starscream? Because he saw that and probably heard it, since Starscream's shriek is of a high enough frequency and has enough decibels to shatter glass. her response is that I want to kill all of you, and not I wasn't actually trying to hit him. You made me hit him when you pushed my arm, you jerk. But she doesn't say that. It's only after Optimus is getting the upper hand in the fight that she says, I wasn't trying to kill Starscream, which she should have said first. With one of our mini-cons was missing, the Robots in Disguise episode, an ongoing theme with the episode, which I never explicitly talked about, was communication failure. And it was like, Russell assumed one thing about Drift, and Drift assumed one thing about Jetstorm, who assumed one thing back about Drift. And, it was like this whole, circle of failure to communicate. And I feel like, coincidentally, because one of our mini-cons is missing came out a year ago. Well, less than a year ago, but months and months ago. The Duel actually has similar themes, where, Windblade doesn't explain why she's there or what's going on until the end of the episode, because she's just so full of anger and grief, and her emotions are making her do stupid things. And after the dull back and forth of last episode, it's nice to see characters that actually have emotions, even if it is just one. Prime is his usual stoic self. I should probably talk about the voice acting. It's not Peter Cullen doing the voice, it's John Bailey, who you might recognize as the Honest Trailers guy, the run away on a tiny bike, that guy. Apparently, he's been a fan of Transformers for a long time, and he does a really, really good Peter Cullen impression. It's actually maybe too good. I remember I was watching the Prelude trailer, and it was kind of frustrating because it sounded a lot like Optimus, but you could also kind of tell it wasn't. So the whole time I was listening, and my brain was hovering in this undecisive border, but not, but it was almost like the vocal equivalent of the Uncanny Valley, the Peter Cullen Valley. It's like, who are you? And then, but it was a little less frustrating in the episode itself. I think not only because now I know for sure it's not Peter Cullen, but also because they sort of added this extra vocal modulation to Prime's voice. It's almost like what they did with Soundwave in G1, but not that extreme. But you can tell there's a definite metallic or robotic echo to his voice that the other characters don't have. And I think that helps him sound less like Peter Cullen, but he still gives very Peter Cullen-esque deliveries of his lines. You could tell that's definitely who he's aping, but it's not identical to the sound we would get in the movies or that we get in Prime or whatever.
Yes, I am a veteran of war, but the Autobots fought for freedom. We never killed for spite or without provocation.
Optimus in this seems characterized exactly like he was in Prime, except here he's not leader anymore, and I'll get to that weirdness in a little bit. And in Prime, obviously, he very much was the leader, but he has the same grave gravitas, always imparting wisdom, never attacking first, that kind of personality. And as I noticed, as was pointed out to me by a video by, I think the user's name is Eon Magnus, who voices a lot of clips from Transformers on her channel, or his channel, I don't know Eon's gender, but G1 Optimus in the cartoon was much more playful. He made jokes, and he played basketball, and he laughed when Megatron accidentally threw a rock and it hit Rumble by mistake. And, he wasn't this super serious, perfect, statuesque hero that I think starting with the 2007 movie, a lot of the modern interpretations have tried to make him. And I wouldn't point this out normally, but they are... I don't know what Prime was like in the Combiner Wars comic, but it seems like that modern interpretation of Prime was started by the 2007 movie and then coded by Prime. Or encoded, codified, that's the word I wanted. Whereas in animated, of course, they went a very different direction with Prime. So I get why, again, they're moving the quirkiness for the character, so I get why they went with the more serious Prime. But another thing is that there's one awkward moment where there's the only negative thing I can really say about voice acting in this episode. It seems like there's always one little bit is where Windblade is using her fans, because she's fan created, she has fans in her wings, haha, to blow back Optimus, and due to the animation, it's trying to show that he's exerting against the wind and trying not to get blown away, but they can't really show that because the models are very stiff and blocky. So, like, John Bailey just basically has to make exertion noises, and whoa, does that sound awkward. Sounds like he's having a difficult bowel movement. I mean, I hate to make that stereotype, but that's really what it sounds like. And since it doesn't look like he's being pushed back, it's just like the scene kind of drags. Another like weird choreography bit is where Windblade is like trying to blow Optimus out of the cave into the sky, okay? But then once she does, he just kind of hovers in the air. Like, I thought Autobots couldn't fly. Like, that was kind of a pretty consistent thing that modern iterations have been doing. And I get this isn't based on the G1 cartoon. If you go back to the G1 cartoon, whether or not the Autobots could fly was a question to which the answer was wildly different depending on the episode. Like, sometimes they couldn't fly. Sometimes they could zip around like Superman. Sometimes they needed jetpacks. Sometimes Soundwave transformed into a tape deck and then flew away like that. Like, you know, it was weird. There was very little continuity in G1 cartoon. So, like, you know, Optimus doesn't look like he has any wings on him or a jetpack, but he doesn't really maneuver around in the air like we've seen Windblade or Maxima doing. He just kind of hovers and then slowly floats down. So maybe it's not so much flying as it is falling with style. I don't know. A little weird, but okay. So I was gonna let me stay with Optimus because they foreshadowed Optimus at the end of both of the previous episodes. So now that he's here, I feel like I'm justified in talking about him a lot. First of all, Optimus Prime has no mouth animation because he just has the mask up all the time, and I'm like. The show so far has been pretty good about facial expressions. Not great, but pretty good. But now that I've noticed that most of the expression is in the mouth, like characters grimace, or they smile, or they sneer, or they, you know, whatever, and the emotion doesn't really reach their eyes like a real expression would. So Optimus, as a result of having no mouth animation, has no facial expression, and as a result, he constantly moves his head around like a Power Rangers character. And I get why he does that. Like, a lot of other shows do that, and it's not for no reason. Like, if you watch Star Wars, like the original Star Wars with Darth Vader, even though we, like, have characterized this character as, like, this implacable man who cannot be moved, he just slowly marches towards you, and all this stuff. If you watch his head and hand motions, he actually does move them around a bit more than other characters whose faces are showing, because otherwise we can't get any emotion from him because he has no facial movement at all. And it's kind of like that, and sometimes it's okay and acceptable in Combiner Wars, but other times it's a little awkward. Like, there's one shot where, like, Optimus is talking, and it, like, pans slowly down from the moon to him, and with any other character who wasn't moving their head up and down, it would look really impressive. But when he does it, it looks awkward because his head keeps bobbing in and out of a frame before it finally gets into there. So like a little bobblehead. And it looks a little stilted. Like, I get that there wasn't much they could do, but because they want that shot of Optimus looming over the horizon to make his words have the great gravitas impact that not Peter Cullen can manage. But maybe they should have gone back to storyboards for that one, because that ended up not looking that great. But honestly, as far as the previous two episodes go, so far the criticisms have been pretty light. But I do want to talk about the dialogue again, because this is kind of a talk-heavy series, and this kind of discourse that every episode has is probably going to be an ongoing theme. So we're still back to this theme about killing. That seems like that's kind of the thematic centerpiece that the show was centered around. And centerpiece the show is centered around. That's not redundant. But anyway, it seems almost like Windblade and Optimus have a repeat of the conversation that Starscream and Mistress of Flame had last episode, which was, I want to kill people. You shouldn't kill people. Don't tell me not to kill people. You've been killing people too. Yeah, but shut up. Like, that same exchange happens between Windblade and Optimus. And I don't know if that was an intentional choice or if they didn't realize they just had two different a completely different set of characters say the same thing as a previous set. And to be fair, when Windblade tells it, it's kind of a more personal take, because Windblade takes everything personal because she can't chill. And Mistress of Flame was more of a clinical, like, pragmatic approach to killing. Like, if we make the problem go away, there is no more problem. Whereas Windblade seems like she just wants to hurt something because she's hurt, yo. The world will know my pain. That kind of thing. So when Optimus, when Optimus says, like, okay, let me start over. Optimus says that she won't let her kill Starscream. I don't know why he thinks that she did that on purpose, seeing as he made her miss, but never mind. She says, I'd like to kill all of you. He responds, killing is bad. She says, you killed tons of people. And, like, you see what it goes. And, like, he says that he, this is actually one bit that I do want, I always criticize Windblade, but there's one point where Optimus says that the reason he killed was because he was in a war and he had to, and he doesn't want anybody else to go through that. And Windblade gets fed up again. That seems to be the one note she's been given. And she says everybody has a justification for continuing the war. It's like, bitch, listen to yourself for a second. The reason you want to kill everyone is because you think the world would be better off without them. You also have an excuse for wanting to keep fighting. At least Optimus doesn't have a holier-than-thou thing. Well, he kind of does. But you really do. Like, when you criticize what other people have done, when it's the same thing that you're doing, and then somehow try to justify that thing because it's been done before, you're playing politicians again. And you're not even on the council, and don't even seem to like the council. And, yeah, it's like the sheer lack of self-awareness with these communist ladies is driving me nuts. And it could be argued that maybe Prime is doing the same thing, like saying that we always fought, for freedom and stuff. And Windblade is saying, well, I'm fighting for my people to not die. So it's like, it's not like either one of them is particularly wrong. It's just that one of them seems less mature than the other, which is not a bad thing about the show. It's just, it reflects poorly on Windblade as a person, but not so much as a character. That's an interesting trait to have. And it's weird that all this nuance is only coming up in this episode. Like, where was this 2 episodes ago? I don't understand. It's like, as soon as Optimus shows up and starts talking, things get better. To the surprise of no one, I guess. There are a few more weirdnesses and oddities I want to talk about. First of all, Optimus uses his axe again. That's cool. What's weird is that he's able to block a blow from Windblade with it, like they're, fencing or something, when that blade could cut through an entire combiner. Like, why aren't combiners just coated with the same light energy that the axe is made of? It seems like kind of a no-brainer. Everybody would glow and it would hurt your eyes, but you'd be alive. Second of all, the reason Optimus is following Windblade is because Computron, remember him, first episode, actually has been sending a video feed to Optimus of Windblade. So that's how he knew to find her on Cybertron and stop her from shooting he didn't know what, but he assumed it was Starscream. Because I guess most people just want to shoot Starscream. It's it's kind of a thing. You get together every Thursday and you shoot Starscream. My question is, first of all, it was established in the last episode by Starscream, who normally wouldn't be considered a reliable source, but I guess he is in this series, that Computron is loyal to the Council. But Optimus is in exile, and Computron has been communicating with Optimus? Is he really that loyal if he's going behind the Council's backs and doing that? Second of all, did Optimus watch Computron die through a first-person perspective? That's kind of fucked up. Also, why were Computron and Minister fighting? That still hasn't been addressed. I'm starting to think it won't ever be. Like, you can't just have stuff happen in your show for no reason. Okay. Another weirdness is after they get thrown out of the cave and they land outside, they seem to land on an earthy surface. I was to understand that they were on Cybertron. So why the hell is there a dirt, crust? Since when? Cybertron's always been totally metallic, right? Again, I haven't read the comics. I don't know how Cybertron is portrayed in those, but it seems really weird because I'm pretty sure this is the first fiction I've ever seen where Cybertron has dirt on it. I've seen it with water before, and I've seen it with blue sky and clouds in the Unicron trilogy, but this is the first time I've seen, terra firma on Cybertron. It's weird. It's not a plot hole or a flaw or anything. It's just weird. What is a bit of a plot hole is that, like I said, there's a lack of communication. So Optimus is saying, "Why are you being so violent?" When Blade's like, "Stop, I'm not being violent. You're being violent. I hate everything." That kind of thing. And then finally, after she's beaten, she asks Optimus to help her because the council has the Enigma of Combination. And when she says that, Optimus gets alarmed. Which is, again, really confusing how the tree of information works in this series, because Menasor knew about the spark combination, but Computron, who's loyal to the council, did not. Or he did, but he didn't tell Optimus, which seems weird because Optimus is immediately alarmed by the fact that the council has the Enigma combination and agrees to help Windblade try to destroy it, which is a huge turnaround from Windblade, go home, you're not welcome here, to I will help you destroy the artifact from the 13. The reason Optimus gives is that he says that using the Sparkle combination will endanger all life on Cybertron. And I went into detail clearly last episode about how the council didn't seem to know what it did. At all. At all. Why does Optimus know more about the Enigma combination than they do? And why did he not give them this information? I mean, I get that he's in exile for a reason that still hasn't been revealed, but he didn't leave a memo or anything? A list of things? 1, don't put Silverbolt on tower duty. He's afraid of heights. 2, prisoners are paid less for a cloth that's dropped on the floor, which is an abuse because the cloth is just as good. 3, do not use this Enigma combination or we all die. 4, keep Prowl out of my quarters. Say hi to everyone. Bye. Love, Prime. Nothing? I mean, their council's working in the dark and they seem really inept. And I love there's actually this kind of amusing moment where Windblade asks for help, Optimus says I'm not leader anymore. Windblade says the council has the Enigma, and Prime is like, what? Christ! When I said I wasn't leader anymore, I didn't imagine they'd be fucking everything up. I leave you people alone for 5 minutes. So, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to know why Optimus has been exiled, because that's some flaw with the series I've talked about a lot, that they don't clue you in on what you're supposed to know and what's actually supposed to be a mystery at this point, because there's certain things that they just leave out, like what the Enigma is, though the council doesn't seem to know that, or what a city speaker is, or what a combiner is, or what the war was about. I mean, that's a pretty basic thing, Autobots and Decepticons fighting. They don't need to explain that, especially not in 5 minutes, but, they leave you in the dark or assume that you know so much about other things that when a point of actual intrigue comes up, like the plot of why is Optimus in exile, presumably is meant to be, you're not sure if you're just slow or if something's not being told to you on purpose or what. You don't know. You don't know where you stand in relation to the plot. Which is, weirdly enough, the opposite problem that a show like Steven Universe has, where the plot twists are maybe too easy to predict, but that's the second episode in a row that I've talked about Steven Universe, so I'll just stop. But, stop with that. Okay. Not sure what else there is to talk about at this point. I feel like I had more, but, I guess not. I'm drawing blank. I'm tired. So, yeah, that's it for the third episode, The Duel. Like I said, best episode so far. I talked about episode 1, hoping that the show would improve, and there's still lots of room for improvement from here. But I feel like this is a good start on the upswing, and I would like to see it continue in this vein. At the end of the episode, Optimus and Windblade talked about... Well, Optimus talked about finding someone who was more powerful who could help them destroy the Enigma. I'm looking forward to seeing who that is. My guess is it might be Victorion, but if that's the case, why would Optimus know her and not Communist? I mean, not Windblade, seeing as she's from Communist, and Windblade does know her in the comics, but never mind. Could be anyone. Really excited for a new character. And I hope the show manages to stay interesting. So this is Dragonkeeper 96600, signing off.
I received a video feed from Computron. I have been tracking you since you arrived here on